Welcome into Inside LAFC podcast. Happy Monday, everyone. We, of course, are live on LAFC YouTube, on LAFC Facebook, on LAFC Instagram, and LAFC X Twitter. Welcome one and all. Come in, leave your comments, your questions, your concerns in the chat room. We will get to as many questions and comments as possible. I am Max Bretos. Brian Dunseth joins me. We did what they like to call down in Texas the two-step. As we got to do 2 games, we are back home, prepared to wrap up what happened this weekend. We'll get to all those details. Dunny, how are you feeling? Get a good night's rest, so to speak?
No, no, absolutely not. Just like you. But you know what I realized, Max? We made a horrible mistake. We should have done this Inside LAFC podcast on our 3-hour drive Saturday night from Dallas down to Austin.
At midnight.
We should have been taking comments and questions for the entirety of that 3-hour drive through the heartland of Texas. But what a fun experience it was, me and you, just chilling out, rocking out to some music, and taking in some of the sights and most certainly the sounds of a late drive, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
We fell back, so we got an hour back, which was very valuable. Wherever you are, back in the days, we'd be at Halloween parties. We get that hour back. It was golden. This was good as well.
We timed it perfectly, by the way. We did it in the car perfectly.
Dunny, way above the speed limit, getting us. But in Texas, you get a little more leeway. I mean, there was some 75-mile-per-hour zones there.
Yeah, don't throw me under the bus, Max.
Just on your musical taste, when we went to the 90s on 9, I was like, a couple good jams.
There's a little aha being played.
There were sights, there were sounds, there were smells. We both agree the highlight was driving through Waco, and the Baylor football stadium is right off the freeway. It was all lit up. Very cool. And those Texas gas prices, man. Well, it is what it is.
A lot cheaper.
We remind everyone to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps us get the word out on Inside LAFC. We have our regulars here. We love to see everyone. David Kim, good afternoon to you, to Coog. Digital Chaser, on time, nice. We're always on time. 12:30 Pacific time, 4:30 Tuesday morning in Korea. Bunifer already has a question. Do yellow cards reset for the semis? I don't think they do. I think it's
finals.
The finals. Yes, correct. Look at that. That's why we have Dunny here. Can't throw him off. Any questions you have. We're going to get right into it. The season continues on. We know for another 3 weeks, the era of Steve Cherundolo will last another 3 weeks. And then we'll look forward. We'll preview what's going to be one of the biggest games in MLS history. I'm not a prisoner of the moment here, although I tend to be. That is going to be massive. LAFC, Vancouver Whitecaps. We'll talk all about that later. But we are here to talk about what happened last night. Q2 Stadium. Austin won. Austin FC won. LAFC 4. The stars were out. Woody Harrelson, Matthew McConaughey, Will Ferrell, all the LAFC peeps down there. What was an incredible night. And LAFC in game 2, their backs weren't against the wall. Austin were. They were the desperate team. And the black and gold took care of business. It was a wonderful night, Donnie. I'm still glowing about it. We've covered MLS longer than we care to mention. But just to be there, 2 fan bases, an electric atmosphere, it felt really important, and it was.
Yeah, and also I think you're bearing the lead. We got to see Speed Bump, the armadillo.
You love that armadillo. What a horrible name. What a horrible name. Suggesting he very well might get run over.
Well, we were told that in the outskirts of Austin, Texas, if you do run over an armadillo, that you're supposed to put an empty beer bottle in its hand, which kind of threw both of you and I for a loop there as we saw it. Yeah, listen, the atmosphere was incredible. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of a couple games for the U.S. men's national team against Panama and Ecuador, respectively, over the last 12 months or so with Mauricio Pochettino's reign. But last night, 20,738. You know, we do a lot of things where we try to rank atmospheres, right? You know, when we talk about fan bases and culture and kind of just the sights and sounds. And I think Austin FC is really deserving of a real contender in the Western Conference. That atmosphere was phenomenal. And they put together a really cool in-stadium experience for everybody involved. Now, I think it's probably safe to say that this offseason is going to be really, really important for them. But yeah, I mean, you and I were kind of giggling to ourselves. I mean, who would have thought 10 years ago, being some old MLS After Dark heads over here between you and I, that I would have told you that, Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey would be pounding drums before the start of the game, that Will Ferrell would be inside the stadium, and this would be an MLS playoff game. It's just really incredible for you and I to kind of sit back for a second and take it all in and realize this really stratospheric growth that we're seeing the league in the midst of. And obviously there's a lot of headlines around Lionel Messi, and for all the right reasons. But you and I were just kind of talking through last night after the game, thinking about, Son Heung-min going up against Thomas Muller and the draw that is going to be on November 22nd up in Vancouver. Man, we are what a time to be alive following the MLS Cup playoffs.
Inside LAFC podcast, we are live on all the social media handles. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, spread the word, leave a question or a comment. Think about it. One of the comments here: Dodgers, Rams, Chargers, Lakers, LAFC. It feels good to be an LA sports fan. All doing well. The Dodger parade is going on as we speak. I want to give a shout out to LAFC soccer head, who is a huge fan. Always has his head and body painted. He's at the parade, which I think they've just rolled up to Dodger Stadium, and he's all there in his Dodger gear. He's usually in here in the chat room, but he's busy. So LA is illuminated. And I love the pivot, because part of it, Dunny, you're an LA guy, LA kid, is getting into the fabric of the city. And, MLS is not going to be baseball. It's not anytime soon. We've seen what the Dodgers can do, and certainly the Lakers a tug behind it. Then the NFL teams, because they've come back, USC, UCLA, the LA Kings, but they notice it, and it's really important. So an incredible sports culture. What was your go-to? I know you're Dodgers, but what were you, Laker guy? Angels?
No, Clippers and Angels. I'm an IE kid. I'm an Upland 909er. So I had a different perspective, but I'll keep my opinions to myself on a day like this, where the Dodgers are fully deserving of such an incredible parade that they're about to kick off.
Young Son, hello from Michigan. Hello. Who knows if Michigan becomes an MLS city one day? There's been some chatter, but nothing definitive. Love the commentary on the game last night from Da230. I had a ball. I mean, you could ask something. I'm like glowing. That was just, you do some good games, you do some great games, you do some not so great games, but you try and be professional all the time. That was just wonderful. And we hope we gave Austin their due, because I just want to touch on it. We were in the city. They lit up the Fairmont Hotel. You walk around, Austin FC hats. They're passionate about their team. There was a lot of back and forth between the fan bases because of what happened in game one with Ilie Sanchez and then Son Heung-min getting one over in the game. There's a lot of chatter on social media between certain members of the fan bases. That is all welcome and important. Engagement, excitement, the fact that you can be elated about your team and then massively disappointed when they lose. That's sports, and time and games like that just ramp it up a lot bit. So Austin, a really good foil for LAFC moving on in the future, although Austin's got to win some games along the way too. The big game.
You and I were fortunate to have a couple of micro conversations on the way out with Austin FC fans, and very complimentary of our broadcast, and you and I as a pairing, and that always goes down really well. We're always really excited to have those conversations. But yeah, Max, last night, I think we were both kind of really hypersensitive to the moment and recognizing what this meant to both clubs, and understanding that as much as we talk about the passion, the emotion, and everything that comes along with the 90 minutes between the white lines, you and I really tried to do a deep dive on the tactics and the shape and the identities and the tweaks, and even going in depth with our conversations with both Nico and Steve in the build-up to these matches, and even the 90 minutes prior to the game, really trying to dig in with the announcement that Ordaz was going to start and Jailson was going to start and Chouanier was going to go to the bench, and how would that affect the midfield? How would that affect the press? How would that affect occupying spaces that then Austin would have to think about? And then understanding that by Austin, subtraction by addition or addition by subtraction, depending on how you look at Robert Taylor versus Bukhari, Bakari not being available, that meant that now think about Diego Rubio, a little bit of dark arts off the bench, and then Brandon Vasquez with that ACL tear. You're now looking at a very depleted bench where, a guy like Nico Estevez can look down his bench and he's like, man, that's 10 goals, 10 assists that are missing because, Obrian had a chance. Fodry hits the back of the net, but Cascante rightly judged to be in an offside position. The pendulum swings in the moments. I think I said during the broadcast something along the lines of, it wasn't for a lack of effort from Austin FC. It was a lack of clinical finishing. And I was glad that afterwards, Nico Estevez in his post-game interview was really talking about the best duo in Major League Soccer. And that is right now Son Heung-min and Denny Bwanga, because they are absolutely ruthless. And as much as we can pontificate tactically about how you're going to slow them down, there's still so many margins. And for me, the margins really came down to guys like Sergi Palencia, Mark Delgado, Ryan Hollingshead, and in really vital moments, those three players played huge roles in the 3 goals in the buildup. Because a lot of times we talk about the goal scorer, we talk about the guy who played the ball for the assist, but there's almost passes. There's almost 2 previous passes, the hockey assist or the pass that leads to the hockey assist, that breaks lines, that gets around the turn, that Sergi Palencia ball to Sonny. Those are, I think, sometimes the overshadowed players sometimes are as crucial as the most phenomenal players on the field, and that most certainly is Denny Bwanga and Son Heung-min. Oh, I think you're muted, Max.
I didn't do that. I swear. It's getting all up. Oh, I did because there was some people going by with their Dodger stuff. If you can believe it, here in Redondo Beach, unbelievable. So I didn't want you guys to hear it because we're very professional. I want to get to that supporting cast stuff, and it all comes around Steve Cherundolo. A couple comments really quickly. I swear Max dropped a Glenn Ross reference last night. I did.
Yep.
And if you've seen that movie, the good sales leads were the Glengarry leads. So in MLS, the good goal opportunities, the ones that you work for 5 yards out, those are the Glengarry goal leads. I'm studying English that I didn't want to hear from Son Heung-min. Great to study English. I know we have folks, and you can always get the subtitles in here for our listeners in Korea. Goju Satoru said, LA fans will be happy if they win both baseball and soccer. You know who will be happy too is Son Heung-min. There's that video where all the players from all over the world are celebrating the Dodgers. They're in. And it just, to me, is an indicator that they are dialed into their club and their city, and they see how the fan bases are, and they jump off that as well. So we'll get to some really good questions here. I already got my tickets for Vancouver. Someone asked for a prediction from you. We can wait if you want to give a prediction for that game. Again, that's on November 22nd, so plenty time. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Driving in Texas, you probably do have an empty beer bottle in the car. We didn't. We did not. But I would have driven, poured one out, and given it to the Armadillo if, in fact, we had the unfortunate responsibility there. LAFC has a top-notch home atmosphere. Rank the other West teams in terms of fan experience. Let cook on that one. We'll get back to that. But I think Austin's up there for sure. San Diego, Portland, Seattle, Vancouver had a great one, but maybe still building.
Yeah, they're all different. I think they're all very, very unique for sure.
We were at Dallas. They're doing a lot of new things to their stadium. Once they get it up and running, which is still a ways away, they certainly can build off that. But high tide lifts all boats. That's what we're talking about. Again, Inside LAFC podcast. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Steve Cherundolo pushing all the right buttons, Dunny. And you mentioned that supporting cast and how it opened up for other players with this new lineup. Jailson gets the nod in that back 5. Nathan Ordaz comes into the 11 alongside Son Heung-min and Denny Bwanga to give a little more attacking verve. Those were the 2 moves. It opened up the midfield a little bit. So we saw Steve Cherundolo as we walked downstairs in the tunnel, congratulated him. You walked over. What did you say to him?
Congratulations on getting it right. I thought it was brilliant. I told him to his face. And again, full disclosure, Stevie and I go way, way back as players, having played on the Olympic team together and for a bit on the national team. My first comment to him was brilliant with Ordaz, because 2 things were happening, and I spotted it immediately in the flow of the game. And that was on the left-hand side, Gallagher was so possessed with trying to deal with Sergi Palencia that inadvertently Biro was more 1v1 than he ever wanted to be with Ordaz, and he was getting sucked out so far. And so you had kind of this pendulum, this teeter-totter effect that was happening, and we saw it both with and without the ball, that Brandon Hines-Ike was then getting sucked into the midfield and trying in possession, kind of looking to build out. And this is where it's got to be insanely frustrating, because I look at it from a center back position, because Hines-Ike gets slide, Svatak gets slid, and then all of a sudden, what's brilliant about the way that there's the interpretation from Son Heung-min and Denny Bwanga is they sit about 5 yards in front of the back three, or the two defenders that are responsible for them. So all of a sudden, the defenders are super hesitant because they're thinking about late arriving runs wide, but they're also thinking about Tillman and Delgado picking and choosing their times to make second runs out of the midfield. So all of a sudden, Elie Sanchez and Denny Pereira, who I thought were really, really strong battling all of the elements, Max, they were constantly overloaded. They were dealing with what was in front of them, which was Delgado and Tillman. They're dealing with what's off their shoulder constantly. You could see them constantly checking shoulders and communicating, because Denny and Sonny were playing off their shoulders. And then there was a hesitancy because of so much athleticism and speed and just the ability to burst through the lines, that the center backs were just trying to stay proper position. So, I saw Nico Estevez's comments afterwards talking about they became prisoners of the moment because they felt the urge to kind of jump into the game and push higher. And I think that's where, just starting with Nathan Ordaz on the right-hand side from the opening whistle, as opposed to a substitution pattern that alters kind of the shape and the dynamic, I really did think was brilliant. Also in this, and this is no knock to Tafari, but with Jailson, you've got a very communicative type of defender off Porteous' right side, or left side, excuse me. You've got now two guys that are very comfortable in possession and the build-up, playing through line. Porteous hitting that big switch on multiple occasions. And then the balance was always numbers up for LAFC. And there was something that really caught my attention early, and it was the consistency in which Sonny was trying to back press and take away Elie Sanchez the moment that Danny Pereira would kind of like flare up in the midfield and try to give them more numbers up, because then that tempo possession through the number 6, through Elie Sanchez, completely negated. So, yeah, I complimented Steve immediately on that. I complimented him on the substitution pattern in the 68th minute when he brought on Tafari, Smolikov, and Morin, because then there started to be little micro adjustments. And then ultimately with Chouanier and Bobasi, we do a lot where we exalt the managers for making the right decisions, and then we admonish the managers for making the wrong decisions based on how the game went. And I thought Steve was fantastic, and he got all of the decisions right over the course of the 95, 96 minutes played.
Inside LAFC podcasts, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Hard-hitting analysis, and everything Dunny said really came to roost. And hats off to Nico Esteves. I think they played LAFC very well in 3 games. Started well here, it got away from them. And you mentioned the players that struggle, like John Gallagher. And sometimes I don't see it as much because you're looking at balls and strikes and so forth here. But he made the change. He saw it. He saw what was happening and how he had to adjust that midfield and try. And Austin missed the penalty, had 2 great second half chances that if they converted, the narrative of maybe LAFC finishing off games would rise again. And that is, Jade Abrian should finish that.
Can I make a quick point, Max? I just don't want it to be lost on LAFC fans, the game management in the second half. Because at halftime, Komanic, Cascante, and Fodry come in. So they went to more of a hybrid of a 4-4-2. And excuse me, I just want to make sure that a lot of times we talk about coaches and their coaching and the staff itself. And I want to point out something that we were talking to Steve about, and I asked him, and it was specific to kind of this show here on Inside LAFC when I joined in the summer. And there was such concern about the roster, and it was on the backside of Olivier Giroud leaving, and Dil Rosen leaving, and Under leaving, and all these guys leaving, right? Marlin, etc. I asked him, and he said, this is what I thought was really fascinating. I asked him about midseason additions, and he talked about subtraction and addition, that what they've learned is there's no time to waste. And so every moment that they're indoctrinating new players into their identity, their philosophy, their system, that there's no time to waste. And so he said that game model expectation, game model execution, talking about the methodology, talking about the tactics. He said one of the most important things was creating a culture where all of the current players knew, because they've experienced it, what it meant to kind of fast track everybody to catch them up to speed. And so when you think about Porteous, you're thinking about Jailson, you're thinking about Chouanier, all these guys, you think about, obviously, Sonny's elite. It's a different conversation. But all of a sudden, man, in that second half, when Austin throws everything at you, they had chances, no doubt about it. But LAFC did a phenomenal job at taking the sting out of that first 15 minutes, because it's exactly what you and I were talking about coming into the start of the second half, is that Austin FC has to create as much havoc as possible, has to throw numbers forward, has to play direct, has to challenge for the first ball.
Which isn't their thing. It really isn't their thing.
Yeah, and then, or, you know, play for set pieces, play for corners. And there were some hairy moments, but again, as much as I obviously am giving credit to Steve and Ante, Mark, and the entire staff, I think it's really important. The professionalism isn't the right word, but it's more about the kind of the innate understanding of who LAFC are, and kind of the manufacturing of understanding the jeopardy of small mistakes. Like the margins are so incredibly small that I thought collectively LAFC was fantastic over the run of play.
Yeah, a little bit here, a little bit there. LAFC had the slight edge in each department, and then you get a 4-1 win. This comment about the games, not enough to change the share price of Apple, but very funny. I'll say this: Vancouver LAFC is going to be a huge event. This game 3 between Inter Miami and Nashville, I think, will probably be the most consumed MLS game ever, at least for now. We'll see what happens, just obviously because of Messi. But that is some really good games. When you think of Apple TV getting F1, exciting sports platform, MLS growing. It's not rocket ship, but it's growth in the right direction. So Rise says, hello. I work for BMO. I always see you there. Say hello anytime. Just tap us on the shoulder. There is Beat Whitecaps and it's MLS Cup. Not quite. You'll have the Western Final. But I think Craig's suggesting every game is a final, but this looks like it could be the biggest speed bump. I would lean into saying that, with all due respect to getting to the final, who would be there if LAFC gets by Vancouver, who've been phenomenal. There's maybe I've never noticed, but it seems Steve made more game-to-game formation changes this year. Is that more roster-based or something that is standard operating procedure? I think it's what Dunny also touched on about integrating these players and making them work. And what Steve did here, and I spoke to Aaron Long, I go, hey, and Kosi Tafari, an interesting time to make that switch. But, you know, to bring in Jailson, this is a huge game, but it's not a winner-go-home game. You want an extra center back in the mix that you can lean into, a guy who can still play in the midfield. And by the way, Jailson's passing was spot on. I mean, that's what you want, and a good all-round. And then to see Nkosi Tafari come in and help close off the game, you're building your roster as you've done in the midfield. Remember, we had no options in the midfield, and defensively now there is. To bring in Ryan Hollingshead, who was huge in this game with that assist to Denny Bwanga off the header, and now Smolyakov, a guy that he can mentor and bring along. Remember, Smolyakov was starting down the stretch end of the season. To move that midfield around, have Tillman playing up top, and I thought Tillman came to the midfield was exceptional. I did want to give Mark Delgado his flowers. I know Denny Bwanga scored the 2 goals, but and I don't want to be cute here, but he was my MVP of the game with all his touches, with his control, with more space in the midfield. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Good stuff. So good stuff with regards to what Steve was able to do.
Yeah.
A couple, as they say in basketball, he got postered, and it happened twice with Son Heung-min's goal off the left foot, where not only Ilie Sanchez was in the picture, but Brad Stuver. I saw some Austin FC accounts today. He also had the Denny Bwanga, where Brendan Hines-Ike fallen over when they had that goal. But those were just optically incredible moments to see what was going on there. And I want to, obviously, we'll talk about Son Heung-min, but let's talk about Denny Bwanga. 101. Class is open. Class is in session, I should say. We knew he was going to get, this is what he always does. He just blasts past these thresholds, these landmarks. We're talking about 100, and then right away he gets 101. We don't even get to talk. They didn't even get to print the 100 goal graphic before he's already at 101, which is a cooler number than 100, quite frankly. And then Denny Bwanga, with great supporting cast, the heavy hitters combining that first goal where Son Heung-min assisted to Bwanga, and then the second goal. Just a guy like this who has got 101 goals in all competitions in 8 competitions that LAFC have played since he's been here. A real eye-opener on a big stage for Denny.
Yeah, listen, I tried to convey this during the broadcast. You know, I'm old enough to remember when Cherundolo was banging goals in left and right for LAFC. And when they talked about bringing Denny Bwanga in, we were all kind of looking sideways at one another and saying, who is this guy, first and foremost, because nobody knew who he was. And then to understand that they elected to go in a different direction and not re-up Cherundolo for crazy money, and that they were pushing all the poker chips in on Denny Bwanga, it is extra. I mean, the level of consistency, you know, 3 times, 20 plus goals. You know, you can go. I was trying to write down all of his statistics that he had heading into the game. 4 times this season, and now 5 times, 2+ goals scored, 52 key passes, 7 penalties. You know, you can go on and on and on, but his goals in the 25th and 44th, he's a guy that creates for himself. He's a guy that creates for others. He's a guy that scares the daylights in any defender isolated 1v1. It's phenomenal the way that he uses his body, specific to the Hollingshead goal that you were talking about, getting goal side, like just reading the directory of the header, the direction, of the header, to then bounce Svatak to get him goal side, and then a quick little shimmy, a deft little touch with less than a yard of space, and then having the level-headedness of Sonny and that first ball from Valencia getting back across, also be provider on Sonny's goal. I mean, he's just so incredibly technically gifted, and you know, hopefully this partnership is not just a 1 or a 2-year plan. Hopefully these 2 players that obviously have connected on a psychological standpoint as much as a physical standpoint can continue this insane run of form. What was the stat you said? 24 of the last 26 goals, or 27 goals?
I have it here.
21 to 24?
Yeah, it's up to 22 of the last 26.
Well,
so they got 3 goals. It was 19 of 22, so it goes 22, and then the Jeremy Abobasi goal. So 22 of the last 26 goals. Not only that it's a big number for those 2, but just since his arrival, which was August, to have 26 goals, this team has been scoring. They've had, I think, 4 4-goal games, at least 3. I'll double check, and then a 3-goal game since Bwanga's arrived, since Son Heung-min has arrived. Inside LAFC podcast, we got some great comments. I got to get to this, and some great questions as well. Live here on our YouTube, Facebook, as well as Twitter. You get on Twitter, you can put it on the side, or X Twitter. One day we'll all move to X, but it's just old habits, my friend. I love the name Twitter. I thought it was perfect. I don't know why they changed it. But hey, water under the bridge. Props on this week's show. Max and Donnie, the perfect way to break from my Monday work morning and look back forward with LAFC talk. Amen. I'm so bummed about the happy foot, sad foot technical difficulties. I didn't know if that happened, but we love those guys, and hopefully they can get on there. They've been doing great work as an alternate to us, of course, to get your LAFC feed. Talk about how Dolo led the team to the playoffs during each of the year with LAFC. Cherundolo has also led them to a conference semifinal 4 years running. I don't know where that stands historically, but that doesn't happen that often. Yes, our fans in Korea, Thomas Muller versus Sonny. We'll talk about that. Would love to see Portland knock out San Diego. It could happen. It could happen, and it would be good for LAFC and Vancouver, because the winner of that would host the Western Final. So that is important. You can sit there and pull for Portland. I know that's hard for some LAFC fans.
Maxie, I like this one. The Chris 23456 is saying, my favorite part last night was Mr. Bretos doing live math. Very bold. I tried to warn you. Don't do live math on television.
Donnie's spot on about what I shouldn't do. He's been right about a lot of these things. I can't help myself. But also an Aristotle quote: "The whole is greater than the sum of its parts." He's talking about Denny Bwanga and Son Heung-min. Fantastic with what they've been able to do. when Jeremy Abobasi scored that goal, and then Sergi Palencia, who was phenomenal too. I mean, he is just a guy you have to have if you want to make a big run. Him and Son Heung-min running out and embracing Jeremy Abobasi, and everyone was just elated. Just so many good vibes. That doesn't mean they're going to get to MLS Cup and win it, but it certainly is a good optics for all of us. So we'll continue with these comments. Keep them coming. This is where you do it on Inside LAFC Podcasts. Austin gets no coffee. Coffee's for closers. Glenn Rouse. Very nicely done. It was sweet to see Bwanga get his 100 and 101st goal. Denny is loving life. He wasn't even sweating at the end of the game. Granny came out. Remember, he was subbed. Another thing about hitting all the right buttons. Again, you don't have to rest him because they're not going to play for a while. But Denny does have World Cup qualifiers coming up. 2 big games. If they get to buy Nigeria, they'll have to win twice and then get another game. So it's going to be difficult for Gabon to make the World Cup. But he's still got something going. I saw a comment about who benefits between LAFC and Vancouver on the international break. The international break will be honored, and then the teams come back. It'll be short rest for the internationals. Knock on wood, there's no injuries. I would say LAFC are affected a bit more because they're going to lose their big 2. I have to check what Korea's schedule is. I didn't do that. Shame on me. But Thomas Muller's no longer a German international, so he could do that. Maybe Berhalter and a couple other guys. But the good news is that
would be the Canadians. Max, they'd be the Canadians, like the Jake Nelsons. They would be the Ali Ahmed type. Those would be the guys that they probably so. So it's a bit of a push, but again, the good news, it's not ideal that we have this big break, but I'll tell you what, when those conference semis roll around, it's going to be fire, and we'll be excited. A lot of time to ramp up a truly rampable game between LAFC at BC Place. Remember, they had 32K for their game there as well. So let's talk about it. So I think we'll get into a bigger preview next week with regards. I wanted to phrase it a little differently here and call it Son Heung-min versus Thomas Muller, because it looks good there on our topic bar. Look at that. It looks like a main event at UFC. Pay-per-view. Be there. I was asked this question, Johnny, and I would like to ask you this question. I go, who has had a bigger impact? And this may surprise the people here. Son Heung-min, on and off the field, has had a bigger impact. What he has done engaging us here on our podcast, which is growing by leaps and bounds, and everything LAFC does, and our connection to the Korean community and the fans that love the Premier League, and we have linear TV deals. If you take a listen to our Black and Gold Insider with Larry Friedman, co-president and owner, about the linear deals and the radio deals, the bandwidth and everything is amazing. So overall, Son Heung-min has had a bigger impact. But when you look on the field, we called the Dallas-Vancouver game this weekend. It's a push because both these players have lifted these teams, in my estimation. I want to give a lot of respect because after seeing Muller, and there's something that's similar about what Vancouver is doing that what LAFC is doing for Son Heung-min. You have these two guys that are just a different level. We don't have players like this that work hard, direct traffic, make their players around them better, put people in good positions. And we've seen it with LAFC, and Vancouver's doing the same thing, where these teammates don't want to disappoint their star player, want to be in the right place, want to embrace the situation and get the most of it, want to get better, and they are doing it. And Thomas Muller has been, he doesn't get the great goals that Son Heung-min does. He gets most of his goals from the penalty spot. But I have seen it, how everyone raises their game for whatever reason, because they have this superstar here and they don't want to waste it. Who would you give the edge to? Yeah, I don't do this. I don't like doing this. I don't like to rank them. I don't.
Do it.
No, because there's so much nuance to it. You and I were consuming a show the other day, and everyone was yelling at each other, and everyone was trying to get their point across of why one person was better than the other. I don't think it has to be that way. I think when you talk statistically, Thomas Muller's 7 goals, 3 assists in the regular season was incredibly important for a team that was missing Ryan Gold, missing Tristan Blackman, Brian White, Ranko Velisinovic, Sam Adekubi. Jesper Sorensen in Vancouver have been decimated by international duty. And it's a team that went to a CONCACAF Champions Cup final, losing against Cruz Azul and Matty Bogusz. They won the Canadian Championship. They won the Cascadia Cup rivalry, the best team between themselves, Seattle and Portland, and did so. And Jesper Sorensen kind of laughing about it now, but telling us how many games they had to play through the international window, including losing all of their U.S. players and Canadian players over the course of the Gold Cup. And that's one of the reasons why you're seeing Vancouver do so well right now, because some of those players that they never projected to be important pieces of the puzzle are, I mean, I never had Ralph Prizo and Halbuni being the two center backs with Veselinovic and Tristan Blackman.
Emmanuel Stabi.
Yeah, Emmanuel Stabi on the right-hand side. Ocampo on that right-hand side. You know, thinking about this midfield, having no Ryan Gauld for the entirety of the season. Brian White, 17, 18 goals, a consistent scorer. So they are both, Sonny and Thomas Muller are incredibly impactful. What I said during the broadcast on Saturday night is, in the modern era, Thomas Muller has been one of the most consistent performers in the attacking phase of play in all of world football. His cult of personality on and off the field is there for everybody to see. All you got to do is do a quick Google search and you'll find some hilarious videos of him. But then on the field, he's a ruthless killer. And I can even remember doing FIFA Club World Cup this summer and doing the Munich game. And there was like
great.
a big.
I watched those games. He was so influential at his age for Munich.
Yeah.
So this isn't, oh, MLS, he's dominating. He was doing this with Munich this year.
But even more so, remember, everybody was like making fun of the German teams, Dortmund and Bayern Munich, for their substitutes staying in the locker room because it was too hot out on the field. And Thomas Muller comes out afterwards. He's like, I got no time for that. Like, I'm here to play. Like, I don't want excuses. I don't care how hot it is. We're here to play football. And he just brings a ruthless mentality. And as much as we talked to Ryan Hollingshead and Aaron Long about great people, like Sonny's a great human being, but there's that edge to him that we don't get to see. Like, he digs into people. He's like, not good enough. We got to raise the standard. It's the accountability. I mean, I even wrote it down right here. That Steve Cherundolo that we had in our conversations with him.
We don't have to see the paper, dude.
No, but it was like, focus on doing the little things right, training like it's game performance, the physicality, the messaging of tackles, all of those things is what raises guys like that to the higher level. So the rising tide lifts all ships. And I can remember as a young player being around these world-class players that were on my teams, and I would want to be in their shadow. I would want to know what time they showed up. I want to know how their activation looked. I wanted to see how they put their boots on. I wanted to see what they were doing in the gym. I was trying to take anything that I could for me to be a better player, because this is a master's degree that I was getting in football when you have players like that around you. So when we talk about Thomas Muller, he's been incredibly influential for me for one player the most, and that's Sebastian Berhalter. And talking to Sebastian Berhalter at U.S. men's national team, caught him in the hotel the other day. You can tell he is just a sponge right now for Thomas Muller. And this matchup, for different reasons, is going to be extraordinary. I would argue that in the attacking phase of play, that LAFC has a significant edge for what Vancouver is going to have to deal with defensively. But I do not want to diminish the mentality that's been created in Vancouver, because we've all been waiting for them to fall off. And outside of Matthias Laborda red card, 11 minutes in on decision day to FC Dallas, this is a team that was going to be the best team in the Western Conference had that not happened.
Inside LAFC podcast, live on LAFC YouTube, Facebook, and X. Leave your comments and questions. We'll do a couple primer for this Vancouver game, but we'll preview it in greater detail next week, November 22nd. Let's put it up there. Western Conference semi in Vancouver, BC Place. Great chance for a road trip. We'll see how many fans go. It'll be fun. That's a big place, so they can accommodate. Some quick comments and questions. We'll get into that before we slide back into that. Appreciate your listenership. Ordaz is better than Messi. Ordaz was really good. I also wanted to say this about Mark Delgado, because you brought up Sebastian Berhalter. And the best 11 will be coming out. There's a lot of candidates in the midfield. Vander's classified at 1. Jeppe Sverskov at San Diego FC is a guy I considered. I think I had him in there. Sebastian Berhalter is a guy you'd certainly want to consider. Christian Roldan. I think Mark Delgado, I'm not going to tell you I voted, but he was there. I was like, he is just a tick behind those guys for best 11, I think.
He's not, though. He's not. He's for, and I said this during the broadcast, Max. We know I mean, we know, all the other C fans know, but he's gone down as one of the least talked about all around midfielders in the last 5-6 years in Major League Soccer. He was completely overshadowed in Toronto, completely overshadowed at LA Galaxy. He's overshadowed here at LAFC. And very quietly, if you go and ask all of the talking heads, the players, if you did a blind, I don't know, questionnaire, and you specifically asked about the traits of Mark Delgado, it would be so incredibly complimentary, because on both sides of the ball, he is, I think, one of the most complete midfielders in Major League Soccer that probably a lot of people aren't aware of. He is so good and so consistent and so complete. And I think very quietly, Mark Delgado was one of the best signings in the offseason in Major League Soccer. Not just for LAFC. I'm saying for the entire league. That's how good Mark Delgado's been, because he doesn't get the spotlight, but his consistency of performance, he's always putting like an 8 out of 10 performance each and every game.
That's important to me. And I think when I looked at the midfielders, those 4 guys I mentioned were in order for me, with no particular order for my votes. And Delgado, you probably put him at 6 or 7. I realistically, and I looked at all the guys. Maybe it's a little bit too high. Maybe I watched more of my share of LAFC games. I just like how consistent and the order he brings to the game. It's fantastic. Andy Morin, passing was on point. A little bit of a pop there. Remember, Morin's on loan. He has to really impress here to see if he is an LAFC player in the future. I feel like Caffeine Rush 03. I feel like LAFC has the perfect chemistry right now. It's feeling there. But all the teams that are winning, and I think you can say that about Vancouver. I think you can say that about Philadelphia on the East. So we'll see. There's going to be good chemistry by and large. Juan Vargas, did you guys go to Terry Black's? I really thought about it. That's the famous barbecue place. We had a car, but since we got in so late and I went to bed around 3, that sacrificed sleep. The extra hour of sleep.
Maxie wouldn't go to Terry Black's. He wanted to go to Super Target instead.
I had to get some hair product because I left it. Okay, thanks a lot. Are you happy? So the Terry Black's, you get one of the beef ribs, you get a sausage, and you get like 3 thin slices of brisket, and then you get the pickles and a little bit of mac and cheese because they weigh it. And if you get too much, you walk out of there, it's $100. So very good. I'll do it next time. Austin's a great place to visit. Check it out. Max, dying to know what you said at the opening for Happy Foot, Sad Foot at the round 1, game 1. I just ripped those guys. It was a joke we had, and they were going to come in, but the audio wasn't working. So we shall see. Hopefully, Mueller signs with Vancouver so that the rivalry will grow and intensify. The Caps haven't made big free agent splashes in the past. I can tell you, Mueller's very happy there. He has a 1-year deal. He's not a DP because they already have 3 DPs. But I think what's going to happen, I'd be crazy if he's not there next year, that they re-sign him DP. He's making a very meager wage for a player of that level. But that's
a lot of different places, yeah. For a lot more.
Yeah, the fact that he's doing that, but they'll make him whole, I can assure you.
But can we just acknowledge his effect, by the way, really quick, Max? Because at the beginning of the season, there was serious conversations about current Vancouver ownership putting the club up for sale and looking to make some really tough decisions. And that lease option with BC Place has been significant, and it's been in place even before they came in Major League Soccer. And even last year, we were a part of the game in Portland where Vancouver had home field advantage in the playing game, but had to play the game in Portland because the schedule was, I believe, some moto event at BC Place. He's been such a hit that the culture and the feel and the iconic supporter kind of atmosphere at BC Place is back from what it was in the 70s and 80s for Vancouver Whitecaps. So much so that there's significant conversation about investment and looking for the opportunity to build their own stadium. And that, for me, Jesper Sorensen deserves a ton of credit for the momentum that they've created. But it just goes to show, like we've seen with Son Heung-min at LAFC, like we see with Lionel Messi down in Miami, you get these type of iconic presence. All of a sudden, you get the buy-in, personality, the guys that are willing to do anything both on the field and off the field to really build the brand and build the crest. Those are, you and I were having this debate, like how many other teams can go find somewhere in between spending 20 and 25 million for Son Heung-min and finding a player like Thomas Muller for free. Somewhere in that equation is a handful of players that could be really significant difference makers for a Major League Soccer market.
Give some love to their sporting director Axel Schuster, but the coaching staff not only getting Thomas Muller to come in to get everyone to lift their game in a big way. Pedro Vite, they sold for big money to Pumas in Mexico. Sebastian Berhalter is probably going to, I mean, this is a guy who has got the European skill set. If that is on card, they're finding good young Canadian talent. Ali Ahmed has been there. Jalen Nelson Alumi, who's a teenager, who they are, man, you see that kid. He is special. So Vancouver is going to be a big power. Here's some of the comments because we're going to wrap things up. Denny plus Sunny, a lot of the muscle hashtag, the cool hashtag. Very, very nice. Please do a podcast with Paul, the security. Is our production team listening? Someone suggested that. It wasn't me, but
Paul came in and said what's up to us. We got to catch up with Paul for a minute.
Maybe we leave no stone unturned on our great programming here on YouTube.
He's busting your chops.
Yeah, he was all smiles. He was happy to see me. But 1 minute you see him with Son Heung-min, 1 minute you see him with Will Ferrell, then you see him with the ownership. And he's just everywhere. Then he accompanies Aaron Long. It's like there's 3 of him. I don't know how he does it. We're getting a lot of help from our Korean listeners giving the time. 6 a.m. in Korea. Woke up early to watch that game. Excellent. We appreciate you. I should have studied English harder to one of our Korean listeners so they could follow along. We're going to
Maxie, I like this one from Craig Griffin. I get a feeling that your guys' road trip was a bit like trains, planes, and automobiles. Did you see the Bears game? I will tell you, Craig, nobody's hand ended up between pillows, so that was a big positive. There's no cuddling happening.
Dunny did drive between 2 18-wheelers, though, which I didn't appreciate. I thought it was a little bit dangerous, but
split the uprights every once in a while, Max.
Where he plays the mess around. I was watching that John Candy. It was nice. And it's Thanksgiving coming up, so we will watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles once, maybe twice. Sarai, who works at BMO. I love working for you guys. We're happy to see that. I'll pass that on to the powers that be, and we'll just roll through here. But again, Western Conference Semi in Vancouver, TBD, November 22nd. So we'll build up to that. Beat Whitecaps and LAFC should see and demand the return of Tristan Blackman. Tristan Blackman, former LAFC player, MLS Defender of the Year. We'll talk about the matchup, but this benefits them. 2 big players that now they can get 2 weeks. You know, LAFC's healthy, but this will help Vancouver. You think, or maybe the plucky guys are better at this case. Tristan Blackman, Brian White. So they're both, what we understand, are close to coming back. I think in 2 weeks, I'd be surprised if you didn't see them there.
And by the way, shout out to the Korean supporters that continue to roll out. We saw them at Q2 Stadium. We're definitely going to see them in Vancouver. And even, excuse me, you and I caught on camera, our camera guys, were catching multiple Korean streamers live, like streaming live inside of the stadium. And they were like showing that they were live streaming inside the stadium. So pretty incredible stuff that's happening in the support for Sonny, not only at obviously BMO Stadium, but around Major League Soccer.
I don't know if this is a compliment. I'll take it. Mr. Bretos, I just had lunch and now I'm hungry again. Got him hungry again. Sir Crispy wishing us the best as he does every week. Thank you, sir. Yesterday, Delgado Palencia looked phenomenal. With Son, I love seeing how much support him and LAFC get. Sometimes it doesn't feel like an away game. Interesting. And Canada, there's going to be an opportunity because that will be an opportunity for Korean fans or Son Heung-min fans in general to go the north of the border, so they don't have to stamp their passport, whether they're in Vancouver, whether in Alberta, whether in any of the wonderful provinces in Canada. All right, so we'll have some time to ramp it up, Dunny. Good stuff. Get a little sleep, man. You're looking a little punchy.
Thanks, buddy.
Oh, have you had authentic Korean? You look great. You look better than I do. Have you had authentic Korean BBQ all the time? Young Money is my spot right now. I mix it up here in Koreatown. Max, can you close out the show in Korean? Not today, but soon enough, because you asked.
Yeah.
Max, I'll see you in Vancouver. I don't know if we'll be on the call, but if I'm not, I'm going to try and make it up there. I certainly will. So we go on. There you go. That's all the time we have. Well, we have all the time we want, but we're going to wrap it up here. For Brian Dunseth, a reminder to like the video, subscribe to the channel, check us out on all the LAFC handles. Go Dodgers, and yes, let's go black and gold. We'll see you next Monday, same time, right here.